Okay, I stab him. Miss. Okay, I guess I just try again. Okay, that hits. Cool, great. I do, 6 damage. Okay, wizard, your turn.
Yes. One second. Let me see.
Thousands of tears later.
I cast Fireball.
They all succeed. Sorry.
Oh, well, in that case, they take 17 damage each.
Oh, well, they're all dead. I suppose combat's over. D&D combat is a slog. It takes ages, it's boring, and the worst part is that it's a main focus of the game. Like 90% of the rules are to do with combat. Why does this not work? Most of the time the fight actually just ends because the wizard wore down the legendary resistances, and all the damage the fighter didn't matter anyway. Well, I say no more! We're here to make combat great again. Hey everyone, welcome to The Grit and Glory, where we learn how to improve the gaming experience. If you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and of course subscribe. But now, onto the video. What I'm saying right now, it's nothing new. We all know the problems with D&D combat. Actions, bonus actions, reactions, they're all so clunky, and they have been for years. The obvious advantages of moving to an action point system have been well known and spoken about endlessly. But for those of you who are new to the hobby or just haven't heard about actions before, let me explain what they are. Action points are exactly what they seem. You get a number of points each round you can spend on your action. They're quick, they're easy to understand, and they're very simple to explain. The biggest bonus of them is that you don't have to deal with things like this. Okay, so are you done?
Yes. Yes, I do believe I am done.
Alright, fighter, it's your turn.
No, wait. I have a bonus action. I forgot to use my bonus action. I want to do this.
Okay, what is it?
I want to cast Misty Step.
Well, you can't actually do that because you cast a level spell on your turn, and you're not allowed to do a leveled spell and a bonus action spell. You need to do a bonus action leveled spell and a level cantrip. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh. Okay. Well, never mind then, I suppose.
Okay, so fighter, your turn.
Wait, I do have something. I have something I want to use. No, wait. No.
No shit.
Never mind. This is an action. Move on.
Okay, alright, fine. Fighter, it's your turn.
Wait, actually,
What?
I forgot to move.
I'm gonna kill myself!
Everyone in D&D, especially spellcasters, usually have so many different options for their actions and bonus actions that they often end up forgetting to do something or the other. Or maybe they try and repeat things that they're not allowed to do. The amount of times I've had a spellcaster try and counterspell something when they cast shield 3 turns ago is incalculable, because who's expected to remember all of that? And it's not their fault. That's why in Grit and Glory, we've changed to an AP system. It's really simple. All you need to know is 1, how many action points do you have? And 2, how many does the thing you want to do cost? That's it. You don't have to worry about, did I spend a reaction earlier? Or does this bonus action work with this action? But I do admit that the AP system on its own has actually got some issues, which is why Grit and Glory have added another thing called an AP maximum. This is the maximum number of action points that you can have at any one time, and it is higher than the amount you get every turn. This means if you end your turn and you're still on 1 or 2 action points, and you don't want to spend it at that moment, you can let it roll over to your next turn. And that means you can have a powerful turn then, because you've waited and you've planned ahead.
That was fantastic.
I do have to note that if you're uplifting these rules and transplanting them into D&D, it will break some things, most notably the 2 leveled spells in 1 turn. But you can just add that as your own rule if you want to.
Hey, so we're going to be using AP for combat, okay?
Oh, really? That is amazing.
But before you get too happy, no, you can't cast 2 leveled spells in a turn.
Aww. Then...
Another thing that this affects is reaction. Because there's no restrictions on reactions, you can just spend all of your action points on them if you want to. If you want to cast Counterspell and Shield, or Counterspell, or whatever, you can do it. And why shouldn't you be allowed to? All it means is that you'll not have as many on your turn, which is actually a secret benefit of this system, because it means that their turns will be shorter. And this reduction in restrictions on reactions actually makes it a lot more engaging for players when it's not their turn. People will be engaged in what's going on and when and where on everyone else's turns, because they might actually be able to do something, you know, interact and react, be a part of the game, right? It's a win-win all round. That's just going to benefit casters though. Martials basically don't get any reactions to begin with. You're expanding the martial caster divide, man. In D&D, sure, that might be a problem. But in Grit and Glory, we have a solution. Introducing the new Martial Prowess. This brand new ability is so impressive, it's akin to the spellcasting ability. It gives martials just as many options and choices as the casters have. Look, there's an AoE for martials? I've never heard of such a thing. And look, there's martials causing status effects? It's almost fun and dynamic. But wait, there's also... And these are just some of the ones that are available at level 1. So yeah, Martial Prowess. The other designers and I worked really hard on talking to the community and to other creators to find out what they really wanted to add to the game. And it turns out this was basically the #1 thing. And another thing is that just buffing the damage of the martials would have never been enough.
You're absolutely right.
We understand that that's not really what the problem is. It's the fact that they don't have enough options, enough variety in their choices. Nah, you're just making martials too complicated. They're meant to be for beginners, to learn the game, you know? They have to be simple. No core archetype should be just for beginner classes. That's actually why we have official beginner classes in Grit and Glory. If you honestly think that they should all be boring because fun is too complicated, then I don't know, you keep playing that champion fighter of yours. I'm not going to stop you. Just seems, you know, less fun, if you ask me. But you know, even that unseasoned chicken of a champion fighter that you're playing could have a little bit of flair with the new weapon system from Grit and Glory.
Oh my God!
In D&D, basically the only thing that anyone cares about is, am I proficient with it and how much damage does it deal? Because that's all that D&D really gives you.
Oh wow!
But in Grit and Glory, we have 32 different attributes for different weapons. Things like cleaving, allowing you to mow through hordes of enemies, piling up bodies like it's nothing. Or hooked, allowing you to maneuver and trip enemies at a distance. Or my personal favorite, whip. So flavorful and fun, really rewarding players for taking positioning into account. And I'm not gonna lie, like I said, there are so many more. I can't go through all of them now, but go read them yourself and try and put them in your game, because why shouldn't weapons be interesting, damn you? I thought this video was gonna speed up combat. Won't all this stuff make it so much slower? Well, no, actually, this video isn't only about speeding up combat. I mean, that is a part of it, but my main goal here is to just make combat more fun. I personally don't think that it's a big deal if combat lasts 2 or 3 hours, as long as everyone's engaged and having fun all the way through it. That's why I strongly encourage you to change D&D combat and make it more of a team game.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, in D&D, combat is technically a team game since you are on the same team, but it's realistically just a bunch of individuals doing their own thing, you know, pressing their own ability buttons. And if they happen to coincide with each other, that's great, but it's not really integrated into the mechanics of the system to encourage that in any sort of way. There's actually so little mechanical encouragement for cooperation that I've even seen certain tables ban it on account of metagaming. You know, you're not allowed to talk in this combat. It's only 6 seconds per round, so you have to shut up now. You should have been thinking about this before, or anything like that. And it, you know, okay, fine. If you want to be super realistic, I can understand why. And if everyone at the table is fine with that, then go ahead, it's your table. But as a general rule, I strongly encourage allowing your players to have a conversation in the midst of combat, to plan and work together. Because when the wizard is taking 57 years on his turn, the fighter and the rogue, they can get involved by saying, oh, well, don't you have this spell? Or what if you do this here? And this is what I want to do. So maybe if you do that, then this will help me here. Like, just let them get involved, okay? But before we get into how to fix the problem, we need to understand where the problem actually begins. Roll initiative. Okay, so what's your initiative? 17. And yours? Yeah, I got 28. And yours?
Okay, I got an 11.
Okay, so that means you're going first, and then the lich, and then the zombies. No, wait, I think no, it's you next. Oh, I forgot about lair actions. Rolling initiative, the start of combat, of fighting for life and death, the thrill of it. It's so boring. It's so boring. Really, gosh, it's so boring in this game. I mean, when I used to watch Critical Role, hearing Matt Mercer say those 2 amazing words, it was just epic. But only because I would then skip ahead about 3-5 minutes of them figuring out who's going when. It's just such a weird kind of awkward moment and a transition from the role-play game to the combat game. Now, there are loads of different ways people have proposed online to fix the initiative system. And if you want to use any of them in Grit and Glory, you absolutely can. But we do have our own personal favorite, which we came up with. This is a really simple method. Every combat, the game master picks one of the players. It can be random or there can be an order to it doesn't really matter. The game master and the player roll off. Whoever rolls higher wins. Re-roll on a tie. The winning team then picks one member, or in the case of the GM, maybe a group of members of their team, to go first. Then the other team does the same. And it keeps alternating like that until one team has used up all of their members. Then the remaining members of the other team all go. It's super simple, super easy, and the best part of it is that it encourages cooperation and communication between the players. It makes the team order and the turn order actually a dynamic decision that they have to make. And the great thing is that this repeats once every round.
Awesome.
In D&D, combat is the thing. It's what like 90% of the rules are focused on. And it's so crazy that it is so separated from the role-play aspect of the TTRPG, you know, the role-playing game. What really is the core of a TTRPG, a role-playing community game? It's cooperation, right? Communication. These things are the reason that you play it over a video game or over something like Baldur's Gate. You can work on the fly and make dynamic decisions with your friends. It's something that is completely impossible in video games for now, at least, and probably will be for the future. And it's what systems like D&D should focus on. But currently the D&D combat system is just awful. Like I said, slow, boring, repetitive, and worst of all, it encourages players to just clock in and clock out when it's their turn and go on their phone for the rest of the game.
What the hell?
The slog and the grind isn't just for players. GMs have so much to do in combat, especially if there's a variety of different types of monsters. The sheer size and the bloat of these stat blocks just makes them really, really difficult and annoying to run. Bob Worldbuilder actually has an amazing video on this. You should go check it out. That's why in Grit and Glory, we've decided to take all the bloat out of the stat blocks and to highlight the combat relevant parts of it so that they're easy, quick, and intuitive to run in combat at a glance. Something else we've tried to focus on though is making them fun. Simple and fun are not averse from each other. They can work in cooperation. And in fact, I find that they often do better when in each other's company. The new D&D 5.5 edition did something really interesting. They have added a lot of variance to different monsters, and I'm really happy with that. I love that. And Grit and Glory has done the same. But something I'm really disappointed that they didn't do, that I was really hoping they would do, is add more of these fun, flavorful abilities to more monsters. Things like the fire aversion from the flesh golem, or the lightning absorption from the shambling mound. Things that make damage types and how you're going to fight the creature different to how you would fight any other creature. These abilities, they're simple, they're fun, and they're flavorful. And they really reward players for taking that time to research the creature in game, to actually find out what they're going up against before they rush into a combat. Because the truth is, all the changes I've mentioned so far are really great for making combat interesting, but in the end, combat would always get boring, especially if the monsters are the same as each other. If you're fighting the same bag of hit points with basically the same abilities for the millionth time, then it doesn't matter how fun and interesting the core mechanics are, because doing anything a million times is going to be super boring. Which is why I really do believe that making each individual monster, or at least large groups of monsters, dynamic and different from one another, and making them feel unique and change the way that players interact with that combat is essential to designing the game. So now that's all been sorted and combat is fun. Now that's been like so like I was saying, now that that's all been sorted and combat is fun, conditions. They are the worst thing in D&D. There, I said it. It's just true. They're not fun, they're not flavorful, they add nothing to the game. There's no dynamic or interesting thing that's been added because of them. Now, to specify, I'm only talking about the conditions that make you stop playing the game. You know, things like stunned, paralyzed, or unconscious. I want to make that distinction because I think the concept of conditions can be really interesting and add quite a lot to the game if they're done correctly. But the conditions that just say, nope, you don't get to play anymore, they're just not fun. I mean, really, what's the point of the player staying at the table? They could just go home. I mean, sure, they might be able to tell other players what they think or interact with other players, and that is great, and that is still part of the game, and that is something I would encourage, but it's not really that fun when your own character is a statue or a block of ice or having a little nap on the muddy floor of the battlefield. Nah, you just don't understand the design aspect of the game. These conditions, they're good. They're another threat for players to have to try and avoid. You know, they've got to think smart about this stuff. No. These are not an interesting threat for your players to try and avoid, because most of the time there's basically nothing that they can do about it. They just happen to roll bad in that one save. In all honesty, my main problem with these conditions isn't the conditions themselves, it's how they're doled out so easily. Sure, if you stare into a basilisk's eyes the same way I stare into the eclipse every time,
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
then yeah, you should be paralyzed for that stupid decision. But if all you did was happen to be in the space where the frost giant decided to use his paralyze ability, then I don't think you should be forced to stop playing the game because of one bad roll. And a lot of you are going to be saying, well, you mentioned unconscious, and that basically only happens if you hit 0 HP, so you should just try and avoid that, right? And yeah, I can see that that is fair enough, but it still doesn't make it fun. That's why in Grit and Glory, we have redesigned death.
And death.
With the brand new dying condition, you don't just have to have a nap on the field whilst your friends finish the fight. You can use your last little bit of energy, but it might cost you your life. You can try and crawl away and get to safety, or you can lift up your arm and plunge that dagger into the ankle of the Witch King. And this isn't me saying you should never punish your characters for the poor decisions that they make. I mean, that's what character death is for, right? But I think if your character is going to die, then they should die doing something heroic, holding back the enemies so that their friends can escape, or taking one last stab into the back of the demon lord to try and finish him off. Whatever they're doing, make it something worthy of dying for, not just lying on the floor when their friends weren't able to cast healing spells in time. And the reason that I think that this is so much better is because it punishes the character and not the player. The character is the one that should be punished. We should never aim to be playing a game to punish our friends who are sitting at the table with us.
You're exactly right, and you get a point.
Now, some of you might have noticed I haven't included the charmed or dominated conditions in this list, and that's actually really controversial. I know loads of other creators really hate those conditions and they put them in the same category, but I personally love those conditions. I think that they are super fun, and as a GM, I use them absolutely all of the time. But the reason that they are so good is because when I use them, I don't take control of my player character. I allow the player to keep playing them and just play them as a dominated version of themselves. The reason that I do this is because it allows them to keep playing the game, and it allows them to have a bit of fun doing things that they usually wouldn't do, like attacking their friends. And I actually have enough trust in my players to know that they're not gonna hold back when they're playing as their dominated selves. Now, this isn't true for all players. I totally understand that. Lots of players will intentionally hold back from attacking their friends because they don't want to be responsible for the deaths of one of their friends' characters. And that's totally understandable. And that's where you as a GM need to actually use your due diligence and carefully watch and make sure your player is actually doing what they would be doing if they were dominated. You need to check if they're holding back and only using their weakest abilities, if they're reserving their resources, or if they're intentionally placing AoEs in ways that are still hitting the enemies and not hitting as many of their friends as they could. If you notice any of these kinds of things, politely call them out on it. Don't be accusatory or mean, and give them the opportunity to explain themselves. Why would they do that instead of this other thing you've noticed that they could do that would be more effective? Maybe they just missed it. Or maybe you've missed something and they have a good explanation for why. And make sure that if you are wrong and they do have a good explanation, that you take that into account and you let them do what they were planning to do to begin with. Don't be a dictator. Nothing you've said will actually speed up the game though. That's the thing. Sure, combat might be a little more fun, but I don't want to spend 3 hours in a fight that I knew I was going to win 3 hours ago. Yeah, that is true. Whilst basically all of these tips will make combat more fun, and a lot of them will speed up combat in certain ways, their primary goal isn't just speed, and they won't make combat as fast as many people would like it to be. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds of tips on making combat faster that all apply to G&G. Things like making sure your players are preparing for their turn ahead of time, or rolling the damage into hit die together. And I'll let you go and look for videos that give all of these different tips because some of them are really good. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use those, but I am saying that there is one single rule you can add to your games without adding any of the others that will speed up the combat 10 times faster than all of the others combined. The cleanup rule. It is exactly what it sounds like. If you and the players all agree that the combat's basically won, then you can just skip over the rigid turn-based structure of the combat and give your players the opportunity to describe and roleplay how they swoop up and murder everyone on the battlefield. This not only makes combat a lot faster, but it also gives your players an opportunity to feel epic and describe their characters doing things that the rules wouldn't usually typically allow in technical sense. This does obviously only work for combats that you're pretty sure the players are gonna win, but that is gonna be most combats anyway, so that's usually fine. And the thing is, you don't have to sacrifice balance. You can still allow for the combat to drain their resources a little. As the GM, you can say, all right, yeah, you guys clean up, but you take this amount of damage and you use this amount of resources. We're all happy with that? Good. But this isn't the only way that Grit and Glory allows for combat to be cut short. Every monster in the book has what's called a morale score, and a moment dictated by the rules, or whenever the GM feels like it's necessary, they can roll a morale check for all of the enemies in the combat. On a fail, those creatures will try and run or escape, or if not, able to, they might surrender. This is because all animals, all creatures, even unintelligent ones, they usually don't want to die.
Long live the king.
This kind of integration of roleplay and combat is something that doesn't exist in D&D for some reason. The idea of a fighter stopping their turn and not attacking, and instead deciding to make an intimidation check to scare all the creatures so they run away, is silly and kind of pointless because there's no guidelines and you're just kind of relying on the GM to think, okay, yeah, maybe that works. And it doesn't really work usually, most of the time, from my personal experience at least. And it's kind of crazy to me, this fact that they are so separated, because last time I checked, it's a role-playing game, not a combat simulator. But anyway, I think there are a million more things I could say about combat, and I will make loads more videos covering him in depth. But I think for a foundation, for a basis of understanding the core mechanics that you can change, I think this video covers it quite well. And if you want to have a deep dive and see all of these rules for 100% free, you can find them on the Grit and Glory website. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, check out the website in the description below, where you'll find details about the Kickstarter that is going live in September, so make sure to back it. And in the meantime, you can check out my Patreon for more exclusive content, or for YouTube content, you can look here.